Imagine there is a country that you can see your enemy through your balcony, which is fighting another country with your military. There is a country called Qatar in Middle East, which is hosting both Western allies, also the Middle Eastern terrorists and militants. So that's why Qatar is very important. Shamita, what we have in Qatar?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting nation. We have about 350,000 population. So
Yeah,
it is
small
really
country.
very small country.
Yeah,
So sometimes we can say it is smaller than a US average US city. And the thing is, they are hosting both sides. So simply with this, they can be the mediator between that. For example, the latest war between Israel and Iran, the mediator was Qatar.
yeah.
America directly using them. And the thing is that America's best military base,
The
directly,
CENTCOM, right?
yeah, say, Central Command, directly working with this place that Al Udein Air Base, like
Also, the NATO command center also in
yeah,
Qatar,
yeah,
right?
both are
Same.
both are same facilities. I mean, they have lots of facilities in Jordan, in Saudi, in Bahrain as well. But the thing is, this Al Udein is very important because Qatar investing about $1 billion for this airbase. $1 billion. So it is a big deal. And
Remember that?
100 aircrafts.
Let me clear it again.
Yeah.
Who is investing?
Qatar.
That's the right.
That's the
Mark this
interesting
point.
thing. Yeah.
Qatar is investing. Okay.
Yeah, they are investing somewhat 1 billion. At the same time, they are investing Hamas. And they also there are some Qatarians, rich Qatarians. The Qatar king avoid this question when CNN asked that, do you guys funding ISIS?
Hmm.
Is it is happening? But
Yeah, especially Hamas or the Palestinian militants or some other organizations, there are some justifications.
yeah,
But for the ISIS, there is no justification.
no
It's a
justification.
clearly, purely terrorist organization, right?
Yeah, because that someone can argue that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization for you, but not for us because we are not designated it as a terrorist organization. But ISIS is purely a common enemy. Even Iran designated it as a terrorist organization and they're fighting it.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that rich Qatarians funding ISIS, they funded and they still funding some parts. So they funded some African part of this ISIS organization. They still have some connections. So this is the problem. They are funding about. They are hosting American bases. They are hosting NATO. They are working with Russia. They are working with Iran, and they also working with these some terrorist organizations. So this own them. They having this balancing act between both sides. So no one can attack Qatar because there's a
Yeah.
US base. So
Do you remember that the military actions that was taken by Iran against Qatar? So many people called us and asked what's going on. Will be a continuous attacks on Doha or Qatar? So I confirmed them, and you also did the same.
yeah.
There will be no any attacks against Qatar. This is just a media show.
Yeah, it's a media show. I mean, Iran clearly said both US and Qatar they informed them we are going to attack. So military defense systems are already ready. I mean, even their impacting very low in Israel as well because they purely wanted to attack Israel, but it didn't went very well. When you announce them, then you inform them earlier than that before the attack, then it is obviously show.
Going to work.
So no single missile impacted in Qatar. So no one is willing to attack because no one in the right mind going to attack American military base. In the right mind, I mean, some people attack they are because they are lost their minds.
Yeah.
They attack them. But Qatar clearly no other sovereign nations going to attack them because of this American base. And also they know ISIS or any other terrorist organization. They are not going to attack them as well because there are Hamas leaders in Qatar, they are residents, Taliban leaders in Qatar. So who's going to attack them? Because they are funding both sides, they are working with both sides. So this is why we clearly see that they have this balancing act.
I'm going to give a easy task. If you're not a familiar person in geopolitics or those stuff, there is a Bollywood movie. I believe the name is Istanbul.
Istanbul.
Watch that movie. You will get all the answers related to this program and this episode that we are talking about. What we are talking about here. I think you are a big fan of the movies and cinemas, and you are a cinematographer.
Obviously, I mean, when you look at the movies like Istanbul, it is we simply say tell us that what is Qatar. So what is their balancing act, how they are handling these both sides, and why it is so important.
Yeah.
You don't need any theories, theology.
They don't use the Qatar or anything related to Qatar in the movie. Just apply the same scenario to the Qatar and
Qatar.
you got the answers.
I mean, they're directly not telling Qatar, but it is Qatar.
Right. So I believe it is okay to tell that because
Yes.
everyone knows that this is how the things works. So, but let's move into to the next step in this matter. Uh, Qatari influence, is it not limited to facilitating militaries and the militants and the some kind of allegedly terrorism organizations and leaders? It is more than that. Their influence is always all around the world.
Yeah.
It is safe to say that, Shalt, isn't it?
Yeah, Qatar doing several things, 4 things to be honest, at once. So they are obviously hosting military bases.
Yeah.
So there are some stories for that. So we can get to that part later. At the same time, they're controlling the global narrative. So that is why they have Al Jazeera. So you can see that Al Jazeera is like CNN, BBC. You have that Russia Today, Global Times for China, Russia
I
Today for
believe
Russia.
most of our viewers and most of people believe that Al Jazeera is something like a BBC, CNN,
Yeah.
or something as you said.
Yeah.
But it is not, right?
Yeah, it is not like any other international news network. You may hate CNN, you may hate Russia Today or whatever. But the thing is, these people have some specific agendas that we can clearly see. Also, that to be honest, the WestView, we obviously show
Yeah.
our agenda. You know our agenda already. But Al Jazeera, they are not just glorifying Qatar. That's not their program. So when you see some Qatar, Al Jazeera platforms like AJ Plus, it is very progressive. They are pro LGBTQ plus community. They are pro BLM. Also, they are anti-colonialism and all that. They are accusing Western powers for their warmongering and their past, and they attack white people for being racist, and they are questioning illegal immigrants and their conditions, and how cruel these Western countries to deport illegal immigrants. At the same time, you can't illegally immigrate to Qatar, but they still accusing America for having safe borders, and they're questioning working conditions in Western countries. But in Qatar, you can see the worst working conditions for South Asian immigrants. The point is, Al Jazeera and AJ Plus, they are pretending as progressive people, and this creative the narrative that West is very evil. And that also then interesting point is this: some people ban Qatar, banned, no, not in West, but in Middle East countries.
No,
For example,
actually, this is first time that I'm hearing that Al Jazeera is banned in some countries because it is like banning BBC, right?
BBC, like I mean, no
It's
one
like that way.
things like that way. I mean, especially not in Western countries,
Yeah.
but in Middle Eastern countries. For example, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they have some lots of restrictions, and Bahrain, and after that, Israel also banned them because they know this clear agenda. Because they want Qatar want to control the narrative, media narrative, for their benefits. So that is why they use this progressive side. So every single leftist in West side, they're watching not BBC, not CNN, they're watching Qatar to see what's going on in Gaza Strip, what's going on in Middle East, what's going on in India. They are pointing out that some there are some articles, there are some videos about that. They are pointing out Hindutva as a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
Hindutva group, but we clearly know they don't do some explosions, they don't do stabbing attacks in European countries, but still they create this that Modi is some kind of a monster. Indians are some kind of very racist group of people. They are using that narrative and spread this around the world. So that is why it is very dangerous, because if Qatar want to attack some country, you will not see some
Al Jazeera.
you can see that Al Jazeera is, if someone pointing out, if Al Jazeera is pointing out to one country, that means Qatar is not happy with that country. So that is why they are working for politics. For example, they are glorifying some Democrats and they are attacking some Republicans. Why they are doing that? Because they want to control the narrative. That is one thing. And at the same time, they are funding, changing the education. They are funding top universities. around the world.
Yeah.
You can see that Ivy Leagues like Harvard and Texas University, you can name whatever the top class university you name it, Qatar is funding them. Because if Qatar want to make education somewhat better, then why they are not funding Ethiopian universities? Why they are not funding Indian universities, or some you can see the Bangladesh universities, and why they are not funding some universities in Middle East? Because they know that these top level universities, institutions are controlling modern day education. The modern day education based on these American universities. You
Also,
can,
I believe these are opinion leaders,
yeah,
because I think Trump also doesn't like that.
doesn't like.
Even I don't like that.
I mean, no one should like that.
Yeah.
Because just imagine some few universities, top level universities, handling this modern education and syllabuses and the things, the critical thinking, everything. They actually controlling students. That is the most dangerous part.
Yeah.
When some books coming out from these top level universities, or some thesis coming out from these top level universities, at the same time when students coming out from these universities, you can clearly see that these top universities have upper ground compared to other normal universities. That is why Qatar simply funding these universities. At the same time, they are creating Middle East studies departments in each of these universities. Why they are doing that? Because when they are funding that, we are learning about Middle East countries and Middle East history with Qatarian perspective. So with that perspective, you will not see the mass expulsion of Jewish people. You will not see the point of view of Saudi Arabia or Israel or Iran or whatever you name it. You will not see their perspective in Middle East. You will only see Qatar perspective in Middle East in these education institutes. That is why it is very dangerous. And the next thing is they are controlling the narrative. They are controlling the education. They are hosting militaries, and after that they are doing this very interesting thing, buying assets from western countries. For example, you can see that Heathrow airport, it is belong to England. You can see, think it is belong to England, but in reality it's belong to Qatar. They bought it. So, when I'm telling you to this at this moment, they probably own most of shares of Heathrow than any Englishman or British government. So it is problematic. And also, they are buying some symbolic and financially valuable places in England as well as across Europe. And just in England, they bought about 400 billion assets. So this is very dangerous because imagine 350,000 population in Qatar, very small country, they controlling significant amount of British properties. And another dangerous thing is they are buying churches, the abandoned churches. These churches are like not created 10 years ago, 20 years ago, not even 50 years ago. These churches are older than centuries. These churches are older than about 400 years. These churches built by kings and queens in England. These churches have the glory and the past of England. They are carrying this England history. But when people not going those churches, when those churches cannot afford to operation, then Qatar and rich Qatarians funding some communities in England to buy these churches and turn them to mosques. So it is culture genocide. You can see that within 20 years, these churches will be totally unrecognizable. This is why I am keep telling that Qatar is doing very dangerous things. They're changing the education, they're changing the narrative, they're changing military perspective, they're changing the geopolitics. At the same time, they're changing the cultures of other countries,
Yeah.
especially countries like England.
So especially we always hear that free Palestine, stop genocide in Palestine, and stop cultural ethnic cleansing in Palestine. Palestine, Palestine, Palestine.
Yeah. I mean, why people not talking about Ukraine like that? Hey, why people not talking about Sudan? That Trump recently stopped the war between Rwanda and Congo.
Yeah.
And it is the deadliest war after World War II.
Yeah.
But no one asked him to stop it.
Yeah.
So that is the hypocrisy of this left wing. And we can clearly see they are working with this Qatar money. That is why they are focusing on a specific country instead of other problems.
So I think it is a good time, a high time, to talk about what these countries are doing, especially the Qatar. we are not attacking the country or the people. We are just trying to clear some of the blurry image that you have already. Right? This is a blurry image.
Yeah.
Because we don't tell you to not to watch Al Jazeera. Right?
Yeah.
Watch it.
You have to watch it. You watch Al Jazeera and as well as AJ Plus, and
Yeah.
compare with its
And
reality.
compare it. For example, I would love to drag another thing. We all know about Nas Daily.
Yeah.
Right? He was attacked by
Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera maybe a few months or a year ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you remember what's happening in that matter?
Yeah, the thing is that they are specifically targeting this one person. So it is very dangerous. Just imagine that high international media network targeting them. Nasdali may be a huge YouTuber, it appears, but he is a normal citizen. Imagine some
With a Palestinian man
he is Palestinian
who came from nothing to the one of the biggest
influencer.
opinion makers,
Yeah.
because his opinion in tech talks made LinkedIn platform to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Right? He's such an influential person and very important person in the era of social media. So such a kid from Palestinian village,
Yeah.
still Qatar decided to attack him, not anyone else, just because he doesn't fit their political agenda.
So the thing is, if Nasdal is trying to change the narrative, just imagine if you want to change the narrative, this might happen to us even.
Yeah.
So if you trying to change their narrative, they are going after you. So that is the problem. So Nasdal is perfect example. Donald Trump is perfect example because they are specifically targeting him because he doesn't fit to a narrative.
Yeah. He was gifted the
Yeah. But the point is that we are not attacking Qatar position. They have some reasonable issues as well.
Yeah.
For example, why?
No, we are not trying to make Qatar looks bad.
Yeah.
It is okay whatever they are doing.
Yeah, the
But
thing is that
we have to aware that. We have to acknowledge that.
Right. For example, that people might think the hosting American base is bad, but they had to host that because this is very interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because this Gulf War is a huge turning point.
Yeah.
The rise of Qatar.
Yeah.
Because Qatar was a normal country before the Gulf War. They had some oil money, but when Gulf War happened, Qatar directly went with US and they helped them. There's a reason for that because Iraq attacked, Saddam Hussein attacked Kuwait. He occupied it. So Qatar knew if Saddam Hussein have his way, then we might be the next because he attacked Kuwait, and Saddam Hussein crossed the red line that no one should ever cross. He said every huge uprising should happen in entire across Middle East against monarchs. Monarch in Saudi, monarch in Qatar, monarch in Jordan, and as well as monarch in UAE. So they knew if he have his way, that will be a total chaos. That is why they helped this.
Because 375,000 population. It is nothing
Easy to conquer. I mean, Saddam Hussein had a 1 million to 2 million army.
Yeah.
So it is obvious. With Kuwait, then it will be a Qatar or it will be a UAE. We don't know. So that is why they all helped it, because it is not business, it is personal. But after that, in 1991, they helped Gulf War. But after that, US won the Gulf War and defeated Saddam Hussein, and Kuwait became independent nation again. But in 2003, things were different. That was nothing personal. That was business. Qatar knew if they help US with the invasion of Iraq, if they can take out Saddam Hussein, then Qatar will be a much bigger player than this, because they can be the great mediator in Middle East. So this is why these things like domino effect. You can see that, for example, that war in 1991 is literally connected to this situation at this very moment.
They wanted to become a player.
Because that is why that
It's a self-defense.
it is a self-defense. It is a self-defense. I mean, small country like that, I am not blaming them. They are doing for their betterment. So what we should do is, we should protect ourselves for our betterment. For example, that England citizens should aware about what happened to their churches and who funding to buy those churches and turn them to mosque. They should be aware for that. So also people should aware about the Heathrow Airport, what's going on there. And people should aware of what these universities, top level, when you control top level universities, that means you control entire education system of the world. So people should be aware of that.
So our message either you change your perspective over these channels and countries, or you should decide that those top level universities should not be the opinion lead of the society,
Society.
as Tom says.
Yeah.
Even I agree. I think you also agree.
I am
Right?
100%.
And uh, we have to acknowledge these things, and otherwise we won't see it's coming until it is too late.